While I was in the Green Lane psychiatric facility in the winter of 2017, I began to realize that I had been mind controlled, not only at Grenville Lodge but also in Wiltshire after the spring of 2015. And indeed, although I didn't mention the fact that I believed I was being mind controlled to the Mossad head shrink of the Green Lane facility, Dr. Peter Cohen, I did mention it to the paranoid schizophrenic Stephen, who enlightened me to the Asylum Keepers Guild. I believe our conversations were being monitored and recorded, because I was soon after taken to the cloakroom at the edge of the psychiatric facility of Green Lane and reprogrammed, i.e. behavior modification conditioned, to basically get me out of believing that I had been mind controlled. Indeed, a lot of these hypno-programmed commands basically cause amnesiac barriers whereby one cannot remember that they have been mind controlled, and therefore they are a puppet for their handlers, which is basically what happened to me for several years, especially in 2012 and 13, and from 2015 to 2019. Indeed, I really began to break out of my mind control programming in the beginning of 2020. However, I had a lot of implanted Russian alters. Now, the thing about these Russian alters is I do not know who implanted these Russian alters in me. Was it the GIU? Or was it British intelligence? Indeed, I believe British intelligence may be attempting and may have been attempting to and are still attempting to carry out the Blackwell legacy on me. Indeed, the Blackwell legacy is a continuation of an operation that occurred in 1954 when a paranoid schizophrenic named Michael was close to exposing the Roundway experiment in its infant period. And indeed, the paranoid schizophrenic Michael had identified several leading Nazi psychiatrists and intelligence operatives who were running the Roundway experiment and their connections to the British intelligence services who were overseeing the overall program as part of Project MINDGATE. And indeed, British intelligence dispatched an MI5 operative, Archibald Blackwell, to basically deceive Michael, the details of which are a little bit sketchy. However, Michael was deceived and then framed as a Soviet spy by Archibald Blackwell and spent the rest of his life in isolation in Broadmoor under the charge of treason. So it's interesting to consider that the British intelligence services wish to carry out a Blackwell legacy style operation on me, whereby they will hypno-program me as a Russian spy and then will be able to frame me as a Russian spy. Indeed, all of my Russian spy persona is implanted in me by British intelligence to attempt to achieve the Blackwell legacy, because the British intelligence services are concerned I might stumble upon operations of theirs in Wiltshire and put the information into the public domain. So it's interesting to consider that for 7 or 8 years now, the British intelligence services have been attempting to carry out the Blackwell legacy on me, whereby they may frame me as a Russian spy and have me transferred to the Broadmoor psychiatric facility and placed in isolation for the rest of my life. Indeed, this project is at odds with the Lighthouse Networks project, who wish to semi-lobotomize me and have me working as an operative of the British intelligence services directly in the cells of Robert Gascoigne Cecil, therefore cells of British intelligence directly responsible for the protection of the British monarchy. So it's all very interesting to consider that as a schizophrenic super spy, my intelligence capabilities are valued by the British intelligence services, and indeed they wish to recruit me. albeit with a lobotomy. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. I have theorized that I have been lobotomized, at least semi-lobotomized several times, and indeed, along with semi-lobotomizations, I also underwent brain cleansing by a brain-sucking device while I was locked in the Callington Road Psychiatric Facility in September 2021, and indeed, MI6 agents were granted access to the facility. Indeed, this is a natural occurrence as MI6 run all of the psychiatric hospitals in the United Kingdom. Indeed, MI6 operatives were given access to the facility, and while I was locked in a padded cell under the influence of Accuphase, i.e. a chemical straitjacket, and these MI6 operatives proceeded to utilize a brain-sucking device on me, which made me forget who I was until September 2024. So the brain-sucking device was effective for 3 whole years, and I basically had no recollection of my years as a schizophrenic super spy, or the fact that I had been a mind-controlled Nazi asset of the British intelligence services, which was beginning to become clear to me at that time. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, at that time also, I was operative in a Russian spy persona. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that this Russian spy persona has been implanted in me by British intelligence to attempt to coordinate the Blackwell legacy against me. So it's all very interesting the amount of effort and trouble that the British intelligence services have gone to attempt to control me. I honestly don't know why they didn't just eliminate me many years ago. So it's all very interesting to consider and all very strange indeed. Perhaps I have value as an experimental test subject. Indeed, I have been an experimental test subject since at least 2012 in both MI6 and GRU mind control experiments. So it's all very strange to consider indeed. Apparently the CIA are asking British intelligence for the mind control programming codes for me, so that the CIA can utilize my psychic spying techniques in a future conflict with the Russian Federation. So it's all very interesting to consider the CIA are overseeing a monitoring regime of me at the moment through CIA liaisons at the Warminster military base. And indeed, the CIA are apparently scared of my brain. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. I'm not entirely sure why. I am just a lunatic. So it's all very strange that the Central Intelligence Agency are scared of my brain. In a way, that is kind of a compliment. However, I believe there is a dark side to all of this, and it may result in me receiving a semi-lobotomy at the hands of CIA psychiatrists and being forced to operate for British intelligence as a CIA liaison. So it's all really quite strange indeed. This hypno-programmed inducement of operatives is all very interesting to study and analyze indeed. In Britain, the major mind control programming operation has been the MINDGATE program, whereas in the United States Navy began Project Chatter in 1947, which was followed by CIA operations Bluebird, Artichoke, MK Ultra, MK Search, MK Naomi, MK Delta, and Operation Often. Indeed, all of these operations mainly targeted psychiatric patients as test subjects for attempting to create hypno-programmed agents, spies, operatives, couriers, and assassins. So it's all very strange to consider indeed. The CIA also oversaw the creation of serial killers, utilizing psychiatric patients in various facilities, especially in California, who were then induced via hypno-programmed brainwashing mechanisms to commit heinous acts. Yet I've also theorized that the majority of killings attributed to serial killers were not actually carried out by those specific serial killers at all. They were carried out by intelligence contracted hitmen attempting to silence witnesses of pedophile rings and organ trafficking and narcotics distribution, etc., and witnesses of black operations and mind control programming. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. All victims of mind control programming in the United Kingdom are kept under constant surveillance. Indeed, I've also theorized before that all paranoid schizophrenics in the United Kingdom are under constant surveillance by MI5, and indeed, paranoid schizophrenics are viewed as a security risk by the British intelligence services, which is interesting considering the amount of time and effort and expenditure that the British intelligence services go to attempt to recruit paranoid schizophrenics via Project Aniseed as schizophrenic super spies to operate as hypno-programmed spies, agents, operatives, couriers, and assassins for the British intelligence services. So it's all very interesting to note and a very strange scenario indeed. The British intelligence services learned a lot of their behavior modification techniques and mind control programming methods from the Nazis, who had perfected these mechanisms in the concentration camps and psychiatric facilities of Nazi Germany. So the Nazis had a huge pool of human resources that they could utilize for these mind control experiments, just as the Soviets did with their Gulag system and enormous psychiatric facility system. Indeed, this allowed for mind control experimentation to carry on an advanced level. Indeed, it's interesting to consider that the British and American intelligence services claimed that the mind control programs MKUltra and MINDGATE were necessary because of Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean advances in brainwashing and brain cleansing. However, it seems that the British and American intelligence services had already been engaging in mind control operations before this supposed communist mind control scare. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. By 1947, the British and American intelligence services were lagging behind the Soviet Union in terms of the advancement of mind control mechanisms. However, an influx of Nazi psychiatrists, scholars, researchers, psychiatrists, and programmers, as well as intelligence operatives, into the intelligence and security structures of Britain and America rectified this, and therefore the British and American intelligence services were able to begin massive mind control programming operations utilizing the Nazi mind control technology. So we see what happens next. Indeed, many MKUltra documents have been declassified, which give us an overview of what occurred, though this is only a small amount of information and much of it is actually redacted and most probably edited. Indeed, the mind control experimentation, especially on paranoid schizophrenics, goes a lot further than the declassified files on MKUltra reveal. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, have a quick vape. The MINDGATE program in the United Kingdom was begun in 1947, though it has its roots in Society for Psychical Research Operations in 1874. So it's interesting to consider paranoid schizophrenic mental patients, although the term paranoid schizophrenia wasn't in use at the time. Schizotypal mental patients, who were at the time known as lunatics, madmen, or maniacs, were recruited by the Society of Psychical Research for an operation that involved brain trauma and attempting to create amnesiac barriers to utilize these schizophrenics, who were not known as schizophrenics at the time, as spies. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, there has always been a huge overlap and a sinister underworld of spies and madmen. Indeed, many psychiatrists have noted that many paranoid schizophrenics have the delusions that they are spies or double agents. What's interesting about this is they probably are. Indeed, I've stated before that I encountered many former British intelligence operatives who had been schizophrenic super spies in the psychiatric system. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that MI6 are utilizing the psychiatric hospitals as a location to dispose of schizophrenic super spies who have become too difficult for their handlers to maintain. Indeed, it's a very strange concept, the fact that the intelligence services are utilizing schizophrenics as hypno-programmed operative spies, agents, couriers, and assassins, because the British intelligence services do deem the paranoid schizophrenic population of the United Kingdom a security risk, yet put a lot of effort into programming them as operatives. So it's all very strange to consider the dual mechanisms of the British intelligence services in this regard. Indeed, I'm not entirely sure what to think of all of this mind control programming and what real purpose it serves. Indeed, there are so many psychiatrists engaged in attempting to work out all of the operations of the human mind, and indeed they have a vast network of subjects who are basically unwanted by society, i.e. the paranoid schizophrenic population are unwanted by society, and nobody cares that the intelligence services are utilizing brain manipulation techniques and mind control technology on the paranoid schizophrenic population. Indeed, no one cares. Indeed, the majority of the population believe that paranoid schizophrenics are incurable and useless, and therefore deserve to be treated in the way they are. Indeed, I have always been described by the societies I live in as a weirdo. And indeed, the societies that I've lived in, these Wiltshire villages, believe that I deserve to suffer. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, a lot of this has to do with the fact that they cannot handle what I say in my exposures. So it's all very interesting to consider. All of these Wiltshire villagers believe I deserve to suffer, and that my schizophrenia is a punishment from some higher power. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, it's interesting that all of these very evil people are attempting to make me out to be the evil one. So it's all very strange. And indeed, this mind control programming of me is continuing even to this day. I believe that the warmest military intelligence capacity, i.e. defense intelligence, have set up a mind control programming experiment here in Warminster, whereby my loyalties are to be identified. And indeed, the Warminster military intelligence capacity are still attempting to push the line that I am a Russian agent, and therefore the security services will be able to carry out the Blackwell legacy on me. However, this is not the case. I am not a Russian agent. Indeed, my Russian agent persona, which is a part of my schizopathy, has been implanted in me by British intelligence operatives for this very purpose of deceiving the population that I am a Russian agent, to attempt to cover up for the activities of Devizes Police and Walter Rose and Sons Butcher Shop, which is all considered a national security issue. Indeed, the British intelligence and security structure does not want the information about the Devizes Police operatives and the Walter Rose and Sons Butcher Shop organ harvesting cartel from leaking into the public domain. So it's interesting to consider that they are prepared to go to the extent of framing me as a Russian spy just to cover up for a butcher's shop and a load of country bumpkin police. So it's all very interesting to consider and altogether very strange indeed. These networks are all operative for the Paracelsus group, it seems. Indeed, a lot of this has to do with a personal battle going on between myself and the Paracelsus group, which is part of the overall wider cosmic conflict between the paranoid schizophrenic mind and Freemasonic demon worship, basically. So it's all very, very strange to consider. Indeed. I'm going to leave it there now. It hasn't been a particularly long one this morning, but I basically said everything I intended to say, indeed. Thank you.